Hello, so I've finally got a mask that lots of people have requested I do a video on for absolutely ages, and it was just by pure luck I was able to get this M40 about a week after I got the M50, because as I said, I'm really running out of room to store these masks at the moment. And, you know, I was just lucky enough to find one for auction that wasn't a stupid amount of money. Now, the M40 was the US's Respirator from somewhere in the 90s onwards, although the actual XM40 prototype version was made in the 80s. And it's called a protective mask in US lingo, which I don't particularly like the term protective mask because it doesn't really say what it is. If you Google protective mask, all sorts of things come up, where if you Google respirator or gas mask, you're generally in the right sort of idea of what you're looking for. So I'll call it a protective mask because that's what the US calls it, and it's a US mask. So there's a couple of weird design choices of this mask which I'll go over, but I'll also show you what else I've got. So I've got the mask itself. This is the second skin for the mask, which is a butyl hood, because the mask itself was made out of silicone, which isn't really a good idea. So then they had to make a mask to put on your mask, which is made of butyl. So the idea being it's a more chemically resistant rubber, so things like blister agents won't eat into the mask. Now this is actually a very good hood, which I'll show you in a minute. My voice is going a bit. And what I've also got in here, as well as the filter, is two outserts. Now when I got the mask, the second skin and the outserts were on. I've taken them off so you can see the mask as it is normally originally designed. So I'll get the filter out the bag as well. So here we go, there's the mask and the filter. So this is a pretty straightforward mask design. Now it's a very iconic mask, the M9, and interesting enough it's actually made out of green silicone, so it's kind of camouflage. So the strap system is a head harness with 6 elasticated Velcro straps, well not Velcro, sorry, just elasticated straps with a sort of buckle system. Not a bad design at all. I'll show you the inside of the mask, but that's pretty straightforward. There you go. Again, it's not too dissimilar to the M9, of course, the US had in service before. Then there's a drinking tube, but I don't have all the... Actually, I think I could get this drinking tube to work with some of my canteens, but I won't be doing that in this video. So, identifying marks, there's one there, like a serial number. This was made by ILD, whichever company that is, in 1994. But interestingly, the exhale valve was made earlier and by MSA, which is kind of weird. So the actual exhale valve was obviously made in a different factory and then put onto this mask at a later date. I assume underneath that, which I don't want to pull off, it literally looks like an M9 thing. So that's that, so pretty straightforward. So I'll show you the mask on to begin with. So obviously I'll put my head in like that, and then do the straps up. Okay, that feels fairly secure. So as you can see, it's pressurizing, so good field of view. You've got your main voice diaphragm on the front, so that works the same way as most other masks do, especially the US style masks. Exhale valve down at the bottom there. Sort of, I guess, a secondary voice diaphragm and a blanking plug there, similar to what the MCU2P uses. So as I said, the main mask itself is silicone, which means it's quite comfortable. It's a nice flexible rubber. But silicone is not the best material in the world to make a gas mask, for as I said, because silicone is very vulnerable to certain chemical agents, so they can eat into the mask very quickly. So that's why the second skin was developed for the mask. So what I'll do in a moment is take this mask off, and then I'll put all the bits on, then I'll start the video again so you can see it with all the accessories on the mask. So this is basically the US equivalent of the S10. They went to this in the early 90s after it was developed in the 80s. So not too long after the S10s. It has a lot of similar design choices. Overall, this is a very good mask and quite iconic. I just said the only major flaw of this is that they made it out of silicone, which seems to be a really stupid system. Also, it's got an irritating drinking tube because it's poking me in the face again. It's one of those tubes which doesn't have a lever to actually, as far as I can tell, you know, manipulate it in the mask, so it just keeps kind of pushing forwards. And I will say it does naturally go into your mouth, so that's a good design choice, but not in the sense that, you know, that's practical when you don't want to be drinking from your drinking tube. So, yeah, that's the M40, obviously quite famous because, you know, it's in like Half-Life and that, being used by the HECU Marines. Also, the XM40, I think the XM40 actually looks cooler. That's the one in Stalker. And what the XM40 has is the M17's XL valve and voice diaphragm built on the front there, which I actually think looks better. So anyway, obviously the US decided, after they had the whole M17 thing for a while, that, you know, cheek filter masks weren't really the way to go because they were impractical and a bit stupid. So then they went back to a good old 40mm style mask, you know, like all their NATO allies had been using the entire time. So anyway, I'll get this off, I'll get all the accessories on, then we'll look at it again. Okay, so the mask is reassembled with the silicone second skin on it. Well, not even the silicone second skin, the butyl second skin. So you can see from this side how it doesn't really sit on the mask. It's pulled over. But from the front you'd actually have a hard time noticing that. Now there was, other than the annoying bit, you know, thing of stretching it, it doesn't really want to fit over certain bits. I mean, that's kind of a good thing, because it means when it's stretched over it's not going to come off. And putting the outserts back on. Other than that, it was mostly alright. Now, I figured out... Oh, actually, no, I didn't. Yeah, because I was going to say, maybe the XL valve is actually part of the second skin, but it's not. This the second skin is made by ATX in 2001. The mask is made by ILD in 94, and the XL valve is made by MSA in either 91 or 2007 by the look of it. So, yeah. Lots of conflicting dates on the mask. I guess different factories made different parts of the masks and then they were assembled. Yeah, the one thing I don't like about the second skin, which you might be able to see there, is where the drinking tube comes out of the actual physical mask itself. The second skin hasn't been cut properly to allow for that. So what that means is there's either a risk of your drinking tube breaking over time with too much pressure on it, or there's a risk that the chemicals will get in. Not necessarily get into the mask, but they will certainly get in and damage, you know, the actual mask rubber if there's blister agents. So yeah, the silicone second skin is mostly pretty good, but they've beautiful second skin to go over the silicone and keep doing that. But again, it's not great because they've not actually cut one of the bits to the right size to fit the mask with all the valves and everything. So there's that. I mean, you could probably pull the second skin even further down, but then you're going to expose more of the mask just to put pressure off of that, or, you know, cut it to shape, and then similar problem. So I'll get the mask on again. As far as I remember, it's not too hard to put the mask on, at least with the second skin. That's, you know, not one of those designs that are quite bad. Because on some masks where they've got the hoods, it actually then becomes a real ball ache to actually get the mask on. It seems this one that was actually well enough designed to not be a problem. Yeah, there we go. Mask is on with the second skin. As far as I'm aware, it pretty much feels exactly the same having the mask on with the second skin on, other than an extra bit of rubber. There's a bit more pressure on this side for some reason. I have no idea why. That might just be... Ah, there we go. It was just where a bit of the rubber had buckled when I put it on. So yeah, I'll quickly get the banana oil out and we can have a test just to see if it works. I'm pretty sure I already did, not on camera, and it's fine, but let me just go and check that. Right, let's see what happens then. So here we go, banana oil or isomyl acetate. Alright, the filter definitely works. Let's just put this around the rest of the mask. Not sure if I'm getting a whiff through this valve, it's probably not. No. Yeah, all seems good. So, yeah, the US M40, it's definitely not a bad mask. I can see why a lot of people like it, but as said, it definitely loses some points for me with, you know, being made of a material that's not chemical resistant enough. So they had to design a mask to go over the mask. To me, that seems like a really bad design flaw. Why couldn't they just make the mask out of butyl rubber to begin with? Really begs the question. So anyway, the next video I'm going to do is going to be comparing this directly to the S10, because this is better than the S10 in certain ways, but I think overall, as you're all going to call me an Avon fanboy anyway, the S10 is a better mask. But you know, that will be covering straps, field of view, outserts, how easy they are to put on and off, voice diaphragm quality, you know, weight and feel of the mask and things like that. But as I said, it should be an interesting comparison video. Maybe I'll even get the PMK1 out for that as well, so we can compare the awful Soviet mask. So you can look at that and say, that's definitely not how you design a mask. And then we can look at, you know, this one and the S10 and see, you know, the actual better types. So anyway, thanks for watching. This has been the US M40 Protective Mask with the second skin and outserts, which are now on it.